right, so here was the situation. John and I had written a book together called And Baby Makes Three, based on a research study that we did together about the transition to parenthood and how that affects relationships and so on. So it was the first big project that you and I had worked on together.
Right.
And our publisher wanted us to come to New York City and to do a book tour there. And the way they do book tours now is they take you into one studio, and there's a you're staring at a camera instead of people. And other television stations or radio stations call in and interview you over a speaker or something like that, and then you answer their questions, and the film of you goes out to these different TV stations. So we were doing that in New York, and it's 3 hours later there. So we were starting on our time at like 2:30, 3:30 in the morning, something like that. So we'd flown in, and then we would go to a studio. We would film something like 27 interviews in a row. And then the publisher had hired a limousine to take us to the next interview. And we were on, I don't know, Good Morning America or something. So we were going to a variety of studios and doing this for 2 days. So this fight happened on the night of the first day. And what had happened is that in interview after interview, basically I was dissed. Not by John at all, but by the interviewers. So people would say things to me like, the interviewers would say things like, well, what do you think is the answer to this particular question? And if it was something clinical, I would tend to answer it. And there'd be dead silence. And then they'd say, well, Dr. Gottman, what do you think? Meaning him. Well, I'm also Dr. Gottman, right? But, that didn't quite matter. So that was happening over and over and over again. Or that happened on Good Morning America, for example. And John, God bless him, you were so supportive during this process. He's my #1 fan. He would say something like, well, I think she answered the question just fine. Next question, which is great. But nonetheless, this stuff kept happening and happening and happening. Or they would just ask him all the questions. They would only make eye contact with him. It was kind of like I didn't exist. And so kind of one of the final straws of that day was they'd hired a limousine, with a chauffeur and stuff, to take us to the next studio after doing this series of 27 shows. And I left the building a little bit ahead of John and walked towards the car. And as I was about to get into the car, the guy stopped me, the chauffeur, and said, this isn't for you, this is for Dr. Gottman. I was like, it was really amazing. So that night, we finally got home,
right,
back to the hotel. And
very nice hotel.
A nice, yeah, really fancy hotel, which we weren't paying for, so that was a good thing. And I was so upset, really, 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 really upset. So I started to talk about it, and John was responsive, you were responsive for about 10 minutes. And then you said something like, I want to stop talking about this. I don't want to talk about this anymore. I'm hungry. I want to order room service. I want to watch, the James Bond movie that's on tonight, and that's
Quantum of Solace. It just come out.
He was very excited.
Yep.
Let's see now, what kind of females do they depict in James Bond movies?
Really cute, sexy,
Scantily
smart.
clad?
Yeah, but smart spies.
No.
Really brilliant spies. Yeah,
Never
well,
smart.
Quantum of Solace. She
No
was,
brains. No
no,
brains.
she was really brilliant.
All body, no brain.
The body was there too,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah. See? I tell you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So I got really upset when he cut me off because I wanted to keep talking about it.
Right.
And so, all right. So we're going to process this fight. Okay? So I'll lead you kind of through each step, what you do in each step. So the first step, you see a list of feelings there, I felt. Mm-hmm. So what you'll do later also, is read over the list of feelings, each of you, and say out loud which feeling you had during the fight. Not what you have now, but what you had during the fight. Don't explain why you had it. Don't get into that stuff. Just name the feeling. Just name that feeling. Okay, so, all right. So you want to start?
Why don't you start?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so my feelings got hurt. I felt sad. I felt unloved. I felt misunderstood. In that moment, I felt like you didn't even like me. I felt very unsafe and tense. Unappreciated, unattractive. I probably always feel unattractive. I felt like leaving. Let's see. I was overwhelmed with emotion. Powerless, for sure. Had no influence. Lonely and alienated.
Okay.
How about
Wow. Let me see. Oh, I felt angry.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I felt like I had no influence. And I was hungry. Hungry. That's not on the list. I mean, you know, it's I'm either okay or hungry or tired or horny. It's my range of emotion.
Right. Okay. All right. Now, the second step. Now, this step is really, really important. Here's what you do in it. What you do, each of you take turns, and you present your point of view about what happened during the fight. But the key to this is to not blame your partner. So you don't go into, you were such an idiot or whatever, You don't blame your partner. You try to stay as factual as possible. So just kind of stating the facts of how you remember it. And the key to this that is so crucial is that there are always two realities. Always two. There's never one absolute reality. There's always two realities, and they're both right. Always. So, for example, just give you a quick little thing here. If I asked you, sir, to draw a picture of that poster, and I drew a picture of that poster, we'd come out with very different pictures. They would look different, because you're over there and I'm over here. Same thing with fights or regrettable incidents. Exactly the same. You're inside two different skins, two different bodies, two different minds. So what you experience and what you perceive and what you remember are going to be very different from each other. Both are right. So we'll talk about our own perception of what happened from our own point of view. Now, the other thing that's so important here is that after each person speaks their reality, the other person, the listener, needs to say something that is validating. Like, okay, well, I can understand how you felt that way. Or I can, from your point of view, I can see how you would have thought that. You've got to say something that validates your partner's right to have their own point of view.
Not that you agree necessarily.
Right. It won't be your point of view, and you don't have to agree with it. That isn't the point. The point is, from your shoes, I can see how you would have thought that or felt it. Okay? All right, so we're going to take turns with this. Okay. So, I guess there's a little context to this. So the context is that, and it's okay to do this, you can go in your own history a little bit. When I was growing up, you know, my mom was very, she really liked to be the center of attention. It was really important to her. And so it was very important for me to stay in the shadows. And if I didn't, I would be punished by her. So I spent my whole life staying in the shadows. So I was taking a huge risk in coming out of the shadows and trying to be an equal. And I know I can never be an equal to you, but I have my own contribution.
Right.
So this was the first time I'd taken that risk of really coming out of the shadows and into the spotlight, and I was totally terrified, just totally terrified about it. So what ended up happening during that day is exactly the same thing that I had as a kid, of it's not okay for you to even exist, disappear, go invisible, shut up, don't say anything. He's all that matters. So I felt horrible through the course of that day. My heart was just cracked in two. So as the day went on, I felt worse and worse. And when I finally got back to the room, I really needed you to be my ally. I felt so alone because I spent that whole childhood alone. No friends, nobody. So I really needed you to be on my side and to just listen and to be an ally. So, it wasn't even so much that you wanted to stop the conversation. It was the anger that I heard. I heard this anger in your voice. Don't know if it was there, but I heard it.
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden, I felt like, oh God, I really am alone here. I really do have nobody. I really do need to go back into the shadow. So, I had nowhere to go. What I used to do as a kid is run out of the house and into the forest, and I'd stay there overnight or whatever. But not even, I had no place to go. So I had to stay there. But, so it meant shutting down totally, going inside and being disconnected from you. So that was my reality.
Wow. What was going on inside you?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, well, I can certainly understand how you felt. And I know your mother, and I know how she can make you feel small and like you shouldn't say anything. And she makes me feel that way. And
Anybody.
And I didn't grow up, needing her as a mother. So I can really understand why that was so painful for you that day. And why my getting angry with you was really, really hurt. I get it.
Okay, thank you.
I'm sorry. Sure you kept talking about it.
What about your reality?
Well, I was very tired and very hungry, and I just wanted the day to stop. I wanted us to be able to make a clean break with, I hate these satellite interviews. I don't like them at all. You're not really talking to a person, you can't see a person. And so I was very frustrated, and I was frustrated with the way you're getting treated, mostly by women, I thought, and so, but I wanted to just stop, and they were paying for the room and the dinner, and I wanted to really spend a whole bunch of money and have a good meal, and really, it was a good room service menu, and I wanted to, I wanted to just relax with you and watch a movie and get a good night's sleep and get ready for another one of these days. So that's what I needed. I just needed you to just stop talking about this and, and have some relaxation and fun. That's kind of what I needed. And to eat. Because I think my anger was, when I don't eat, I get kind of crabby.
I know.
Yeah. And I'm not a very nice person to be around. So I wasn't mad at you about anything else. I just was mad at you that we weren't getting to eat. So that's what I needed.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. So you really kind of were exhausted.
Right.
You'd had it up to here yourself,
Right.
and you just wanted to make a kind of a clear kind of jump from the yuckiness of the day into a more relaxing and fun evening. It's
Right.
just to regenerate. It sounds
Right.
like,
Yeah, that's right. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand that.
Okay, good.
I can understand that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Okay. All right. So the next step now, on the bottom of page 34. So what set me up? Here, again, we'll go over these lists and say out loud what kinds of things we were experiencing during this fight that may have set us up to contribute to it in some way.
And take responsibility for our role in the fight.
Right.
Is important there.
Right. Okay. So, so certainly I've been very stressed lately. I may have been taking you for granted, overly sensitive for sure, as I always am. I hadn't made time for good things between us. I needed to be alone. I hadn't felt very confident in myself, and I think I was running on empty. I was really tired. And then you go to step 4 at the top of page 35. Overall, what was your contribution to this fight? So, you know, I think in my contribution was really just thinking about myself. I was really totally thinking about myself. I was not thinking about you at all. I wasn't thinking about what you needed. I wasn't thinking about you being hungry. I wasn't thinking about any of that, even about what you'd experienced over the day. I was so into my own feelings
Yes, well, I
that
can understand why.
it was a very one-way street.
Okay.
Okay, so.
Well, I know for me, you know, I've had a chip on my shoulder. I had a big chip on my shoulder, probably a brick, because I was really mad at the publisher because they weren't putting a lot of money into marketing this book, and I thought it was just a great book. And we had done 3 studies, and you know, many years had gone into writing that book, and we really had created this wonderful thing that really could help people, and they just weren't taking it seriously. So I think I transferred some of my anger that I had toward the publisher to you.
Huh.
You know, and,
okay.
Because I was just frustrated, and I was just like a ball of anger and frustration, and this big chip on my shoulder about it. You know, I just felt hurt, you know, that the publisher didn't see how important this book was. You know, and I was worried that it wasn't going to be noticed, you know, as much as it should be. So and I know, you know, when you were, you know, so upset, I just wanted you to just be quiet, you know, and stop talking about your feelings, because I had a lot of feelings too, and I think I was into myself, just like you were into yourself. I think that was my contribution, was not really being able to see what you needed there. Similar to what you're saying.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now, the last step is figuring out how to make it better next time. So what is one thing that your partner can do differently next time something like this happens to make it better? And what's one thing I could do differently next time to make it better? So I think one thing that you could do differently would just, you know, I don't mind you needing to eat or needing to delay, you know, the conclusion of that conversation. I think if you could have just maybe more kindly said, you know, I'd really like to listen to you, but I'm having a hard time doing that because I'm so hungry. So how about if we order some food, and then after dinner we can keep talking.
Wow, what a great idea. Never would have thought of that.
But that would have meant you foregoing James Bond.
Really? Because we have to talk about that. Okay, all right.
I know it's a sacrifice.
Huge sacrifice.
No, maybe not then.
There's a great car chase in that movie. One of the best ever.
Cool,
Yeah.
cool. All right, and so that's one thing
I could
that
do
you could do differently. And what I could do differently is probably, let's see, so I guess I could say something, I could be more clear about what I needed, you know? I mean, that saying maybe to you something like, look, I really need some time to talk about this, or I really need some time to process this, you know, or something like that. What do you need? How would you like this evening to go? You know, and then we could kind of, I don't know, work out a way for both of us to get our needs met for that night.
Wow, okay.
Something like that.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Well, I think one thing you could do differently is that, you know, that always gets me is if you told me that you were feeling really alone, you know, and that was my cutting off the conversation was making you feel alone. I think I really would have heard that and responded to it. So that would,
Really?
yeah, I mean, that gets me. You know,
I'll remember that.
because I don't want you to feel alone. You know. I think what I could do differently is just make it clear that I need to eat. You know, and that this is not about you. This is really about, you know,
Yeah.
my stomach, you know, which always comes first.
Right.
You know, and it's not personal. You know, it's not.
What is it with men? Okay.
You know,
it's the metabolism.
Yeah.
It's that
like
metabolism.
You gotta really,
It's so high.
especially if you can get a good meal, not just, and you're not paying for it. It makes a difference.
I see. Okay.
And you don't have to clean up.
That's true. I didn't have to do the dishes. That was a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. All right. Okay.
All right. All right. That's how you do it.